Hey guys, it's me, Mac again. The Big Back 1985 here on YouTube. Giving a shout out once more to Mr. Tim Pool. He's got some videos that have come out over the last week that are important. I'm linking to two of them in particular down below, and I'm going to be addressing here now and throwing in a little bit wider perspective on. So, topic that has been an on-again, off-again touchy subject, especially since Trump took office, is immigration, and more specifically, illegal immigration. Now, previous videos that I put up here, I touched on it, and I said, okay, the crisis situation, the humanitarian crisis that's going on there, on the southern border of the U.S. right now, it's an important thing. It's a relevant subject to discuss. It's something that we need to be aware of, if not actively involved in. And what I mean by that is, you need to be writing letters, making phone calls to your congressperson, your senator, your representatives in government, and telling them exactly what you think. Now, I'm not telling you what to think here in this. My opinions are pretty straightforward, is that the situation needs to be fixed, and it's not going to be fun, and it's not going to be easy, and it sure as hell isn't going to be cheap, because our government has played kick the can down the road, because we the people, us and our parents and our grandparents, have allowed them to do so for the last 30 plus years, 60 years almost now. If you go back to LBJ and kind of the initial rise of the illegal immigration tide, I think you could probably say, well, people have come here illegally forever. Okay, sure, but as far as how it affects our country and in the obvious ways and the not so obvious ways, really you can trace that back to the ignoring of that problem. And why do I say that? Well, Eisenhower himself, as did Truman and FDR, showed incredible control by rounding up people and sticking them places. FDR had the the internment camps, whatever you want to call it, for Japanese Americans on the West Coast. He did that. Truman did something much less substantial, but somewhat similar, when he beefed up some of our border security along the border with Mexico. And then Eisenhower himself, with a few hundred agents, rounded up the better part of 1 million people and sent them away. Said, okay, be gone. You're not here legally. You're not playing by the rules. Come back when you want to play by the rules. And people talk about how, oh, it's impossible. You can't get everyone. Well, okay, yeah, you can't get everyone. But it has been hinted at and announced repeatedly by President Trump over Twitter and the White House website, and other situations have come around recently in the last month where the word on the street is ICE is going to be moving. They're going to be deporting people. Now, we've had some significant apprehensions this last year in northeast Texas, in and around Clarksville and Paris. They rounded up the better part of like 300 or 400 people that were here illegally. They raided a business. They went through and they found these folks, said, okay, you can't prove you're citizens. Your documentation that we do have on file shows that everything you have, green cards, what have you, visas, they're all expired. You're now going to jail. And so with that having happened, we have the capacity to do this. But of course, now you have this rise of the sanctuary city and now sanctuary states under Democratic rule, where state and local governments like, well, we're not cooperating with federal law enforcement. We're not going to cooperate, and we may even actively hinder. Now, insofar as federalism and states' rights goes, that on principle at the foundational level of state or local government telling the federal government to fuck itself, I support that. However, when you're talking about something that affects not just state and local government, but the nation as a whole, federalism kind of gets scaled back a bit. It's like, all right, look at the government, look at the nation as a whole, and how this is impacting everyone. As we find more data, more numbers over the last 10, 15 years, as it's being made public, we're seeing that the impact is negative. It is not a net benefit. It is no longer an asset to our country to have people just come here and do whatever the hell they want. Anecdotal evidence abounds, documented official records abound of situations where you have people that are causing literal damage, property damage, personal injury to the citizens of this country, and they're doing it because the country, the federal government specifically, won't do its job. Okay? What's disturbing about all of this, supremely disturbing about all of this, is that you now have documented, not even like subversively, but like openly, Democratic politicians, senators and congressmen specifically, uh, aiding and abetting illegal immigrants. Now, in the videos below, Tim does make the notation that they're saying asylum seekers with an alarming regularity. It's increased significantly in the last few years. Well, these people are seeking asylum. As I've mentioned previously, of course, if there are people who are trying to seek asylum, if there are people trying to get away from whatever horrible screwed up situation is going on in their home country, okay, fine, that's fine. But if you're coming from a country like, Honduras or Brazil or Nicaragua to the United States, to be pragmatic for a moment, you have to ask the question, well, what's wrong with Mexico? I mean, if you're safe in Mexico, relative as that may or may not be, why do you want to come to the United States? And then, of course, we find with increasing regularity, the documentation proves that people that are apprehended and given a court date vanish. They completely vanish into the woodwork. They vanish into the neighborhoods and the cities and the towns and the countryside. And about 70% of them, I think the last number I saw, are estimated to never return for their court date. Now, those that do, it's kind of a 50-50 chance. They get to stay, they have to go, they can appeal, what have you. But it's very problematic. So we have documentation. There's video documentation and notes and records that have been laid down that Cory Booker of New Jersey fame is personally escorting illegal immigrants across the national boundary, okay, between the borders. That is astounding to me because as far as I know, at no point previous in American history have you had American politicians escorting non-Americans into American territory for the express purpose for them to come and live here, bypassing the immigration process. Now, if I'm mistaken on that, someone catches me on that, please leave a comment down below. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me if there's information I don't have. I welcome this. I want there to be discourse. I want there to be a conversation. But you have these different Tulsi Gabbard, I believe, or Kamala Harris. I believe it was Kamala Harris as well as Cory Booker. Their offices, their aides are actually in Mexico. Beto O'Rourke was campaigning for President of the United States in Mexico. They're going there, and it's like they're appealing to them. And again, Tim Pool does reference this in the videos, and two different ones that you really need to take a look at. Take a little about an hour. They're about 20 to 25 minutes a pop. Well worth the time. But you have these politicians elected by Americans to represent American interests, ignoring Americans. All the national polls, all the social studies, things, you go and look at it, and American citizens are like, look, immigration's an issue. We don't want people here illegally. Now, the empathetic thing is like, oh, well, they're looking for something better. They're dreamers. They're, okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that, but play by the rules, okay? Play by the rules because, well, you need to play by the rules. Why? Well, because the rules are what separates us from being uncivilized. All right? If you have a society and it's a civilized society, then there are rules you observe. There's a rule of law. There's a rule of decency. There's a rule of doing things the right way. There's an ideal that you're aiming at, even if you don't necessarily hit it. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? No, I mean, for some of the superfluous things, it's really ridiculous, nonsensical, anti-logical, illogical, I should say, illogical, anti-pragmatic laws that are passed every year. Everyone's a felon pretty much at this point. You dig through the 25 trillion metric tons of verbiage in the U.S. code and all the laws that have been passed by, the three-letter agencies and all this other crap. How could you not be? I mean, even by accident. Well, I didn't know this was illegal. That's kind of the point, I think, but that goes into conspiracy theory territory a bit. Shut up, Cat. You can take that or leave it as you want. I mean, that's something I may address later. I try to avoid those because it's like, all right, if you can prove it, prove it. If you can't, it's speculation. And speculation isn't a bad thing, but if you're going to try to deal with real-world problems, you have to work with real-world, if you're aiming for a real-world solution to a real-world problem, you have to deal with tangibles. And there's always an X factor to account for, but you have to deal with what you know and what you can prove, because it's the world we live in. So it's mystifying to me because if it was anyone else, if it was any ordinary citizen, if it was you or me or whatever doing this, caught on film, documented, then we would be in jail. Okay? Period. All right? Whether it was to go to trial or after trial, whatever else, we would be found for circumventing constitutional law. All right? There is a process. It's attached to the Constitution. There are rules, there are regulations, there are initiatives, there are guidelines that must be followed, and these people are flaunting it. And the thing that really puzzles me is how anyone can, in good conscience, support Democrats for any reason whatsoever, aside from Orange Man bad. Look, again, love him, hate him, indifferent, or on the fence like me when it comes to Trump. And who he is and what he does and how he's done it and the job he's done thus far as president. If you can ignore dislike for the person, if you can at least respect the office, whether you respect the person sitting in it or not, the idea that you have people who are elected officials that you're paying to do a job and they're not doing it, it's astounding me. You have people actively going to Mexico as if they're going to get votes there. You have people campaigning on this issue. And this is a no-win issue. And the Democrats should know better because anytime they ever try to run on this issue, they lose. Okay? Because it doesn't help our economy in the least bit. It hurts our economy. It hurts our government. It hurts expenditures. All right? Between services rendered, social services rendered that don't get reimbursed, it makes no sense. Now, again, I have no problem with those people wanting to come here. Fine. I go back to what Trump said in his first speech when he talked about immigration, talked about a wall. He said, look, we want a big, beautiful wall with a big, beautiful door. We want people to come here, but we want them to come here in the right way. Now, being hyperbolic or just trying to wax eloquently about something he was never serious about or something, okay, fine, whatever. But the premise of that comment, the premise of those speeches he made where he said, we want people to immigrate here, we need people to immigrate here, but we want them to do it the right way, that's 100% valid, that's on the nose. That's what most people, I think, regardless of what political party you might subscribe to for whatever reason, or where you are, the idea of someone wanting to come here, wanting to do it the right way, getting the chance to do that, I have zero problem with that. There's historical precedent for that. That is perfectly reasonable. But what most people, reasonable people, take issue with is, okay, they're not doing it the right way. And what most reasonable people take issue with is the conditions on the border, the humanitarian crisis that's taking place, shouldn't be there, right? So why is it there? Well, we're not funding Border Patrol like we should, number one. Number two, we have a ever-expanding welfare state that makes it very attractive to come here. Come here and work, come here and don't work, you're going to get rich in America. That's the mindset that seems to be pervading these people coming here. If they can just set foot on the dirt, they have it made as far as they're concerned. And that's what it appears to be. Now, again, I can only speak from my perspective and what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard, what's been documented. And the information I've acquired tells me these people are doing this. Now, the whole thing, again, about kids in cages and stuff, look, over 2/3 of the documentation that's come up recently was all stuff that had been acquired under the Obama administration. Now, is Trump doing a better job? No, he doesn't have the money to do it, for one. For another, I think he should have been more decisive about this sooner. I think he should have told Congress, look, we're going to fix this. Because, God knows Obama and Bush and now Trump have no problem signing executive orders left and right. The constitutionality of that comes into question, I guess. Is this argued as defense of the country, or is this just a commerce thing, or what? If it really is just a commerce thing, that falls under the purview of Congress. If this is an actual security thing, as Trump has argued it more than once, okay, the president has some purview there. He has some authority. Some authority. But you go back and you read about these instances like the illegal immigrants that have been found and caught raping and pillaging and murdering their way across the countryside. I mean, San Francisco, there was a murder there in 2014. An illegal immigrant, guy who was here illegally for the 4th time, had been deported 3 times previous, stole a gun or found a stolen gun or something, and then for whatever bizarre reason, in a very inhumane, uncivilized fashion, just started shooting into a crowd. Killed a young woman, 24 years old, dead. If anyone is trying to defend this guy or claim that he's a victim in any way, shape, or form, I have to ask you to take one step back for a second. Take a deep breath and count to 10. Empty your mind. Then I want you to count to 10 again. All right? Once you get around that 20-second mark of slow, deep breathing, emptying your mind, I want you to then come back around for 10 more seconds. And just think for a second. Someone was trespassing. Someone entered another nation illegally. They illegally acquired a deadly weapon, and for reasons still unknown or unclear, decided it would be a good idea to start utilizing that weapon in the direction of a crowd of innocent bystanders who had done nothing to him, just standing there going about their day. And a young woman is killed because of it. Now, if you've emptied your mind of everything else, and you've stopped and you've breathed deeply and thought for 30 fucking seconds, just 30 fucking seconds, if there is any way in hell you can tell me or anyone else with a straight face, straight up, in good conscience, oh, well, this man is a victim, then I'm sorry, you're the problem. Now, I don't want to tell you what to think in regards to the subject itself, but insofar as the ethics of that specific situation, and hundreds, if not thousands more like it, across the entire country, where you have people that are not citizens, people that don't speak the language or speak it very poorly, people that don't want to play by the same rules that you live by, people who don't want to engage in a civilized, humane fashion the way you do, are busy raping little girls and little boys, are busy running people over in cars, crashing cars, killing themselves, killing others, doing damage to private property, to vehicles, to homes, to land. People that are going around committing acts of aggression, stealing, killing, raping. Again, and I underline this for you, if you have no problem with the end result being that, then I'm sorry. I won't tell you what to think, but I'm going to tell you from where I sit, you are a living, breathing sack of shit. And the only thing a sack of shit is really good for is burning or using as fertilizer. So you can either light the way from stupidity to enlightenment and reasonable, ethical, pragmatic reasoning, or you can start growing the rest of us food to make up for the oxygen you're wasting, that you're robbing and depriving the rest of us of, who are just trying to have a society, who are trying to be civilized and trying to be humane. All right? The rule of law is what separates us from being animals. And I'm sorry, these are people, they're human beings just like you and me, but they're criminals. All right? They're breaking the law. And increasingly we find stories, and you can go digging, it's not hard. You won't find it on the mainstream media, but even on Google, if you go digging for 5 minutes, you can find 5 to 10 different stories from the last 10 years or less of people that have been here repeatedly, who've been deported repeatedly, who've been arrested repeatedly. Stealing, killing, raping. They are pillaging. They are not behaving in a humane fashion. They are not behaving in a genteel, in a kind, empathetic, civilized manner. They are behaving like animals. Now, You can be the better person and treat them humanely and say, you've broken the law, you should be punished. Or you can go old school, which for me, I will admit, and I'm not proud of, is becoming increasingly tempting. But the old school solution is, if you find an animal of any kind, two-legged, four-legged, no-legged, whatever, and it's just doing damage to people and things, yeah, you put it down. You kill it. You bury it. I mean, if it was wild animals coming across the border like wild boar, which we have plenty of in parts of the South and Southwest and other parts of the country, rabid dogs or coyotes or wolves or bears, if they were just running across the countryside, not just living, doing their thing, but just destroying things, doing damage for the sake of it, people would be in an uproar. People would be demanding that these animals be put down. Now, we're human beings. We should be better than this. But being better doesn't mean you roll over like a doormat and get your ass killed over something because someone else has decided they don't want to engage in the same level of humanity that you have, or that they don't want to engage with their fellow human beings in a polite and an empathetic and humane fashion. They just want to do damage for selfish reasons or because they don't care. It really comes down to the question of, what do we do? If we want to make America great, if we want to be better, if we want to take the moral high ground, then we need to arrest them, we need to deport them. And we need to continue doing that. Otherwise, individuals and small groups of people who are having to deal with this on a day-to-day basis may take it into their head that they might want to get a little medieval about it. And maybe that's needed. Maybe we've gotten too soft in the West, in America. Maybe we need to get back to a more brutal and efficient, antiquated way of doing things. I don't know. I don't relish the thought of it. I mean, to do such a thing would be no small task. If I was asked to participate in that, I don't know that I could say yes. Because again, the empathy I have for my fellow human beings says, look, if these people are hurting, if they're in danger, if they're in fear of their life, we should be kind to them. But that doesn't mean we allow them to exploit us, because that negates the purpose. When you forgive someone, when you show them kindness, when you show them empathy, when you give them a chance, you're making an investment in that person. Whether you see the payoff or not is irrelevant. You're making an investment in that person in the hopes that they will further themselves. But if that person takes the investment and fucks you with it, that's not an investment. That is you forging with your own hands the means by which you will be destroyed. That's suicidal. That's immoral. That's detestable. And I, for one, refuse to participate with that. That's all I have to say about this today. I could go on some other details and such, but I wanted to get this out here. I have a short list of videos, specific videos I want to make that I will be releasing. I'll have them planned out and done. They will not come out till sometime in August, probably, or September, just because I'm getting ready to move here at the end of the month. Also, quick note, I will be going on a small hiatus from YouTube and probably other social media outlets and whatever else for at least a week or so at the end of the month, so I can move and take care of some other things and family matters and such. But otherwise, I'll probably have at least one or two more videos coming up this next week. The next video I'll be posting, I have planned as soon as I can get it formatted and converted, will be a Horizon 4 video, a Forza Horizon 4 video. I've been having some fun killing a few brain cells and a few minutes here and there with that. Speed's fun, and if you can't do it for real, well, video games are a pretty decent substitute. Incomplete as it is. But hopefully you guys will enjoy that. Like I said, 2 videos from Tim Pool you really need to see that really talk about this in a little bit more concise manner, and information's been reported. I am becoming very much fond of Tim's candor in the subject and his ability to really be pragmatic about it all. Shut up, cat! Anyway, on that note, this is LeBigMac 1985. Be excellent to each other. Taxation is theft. I'll talk at you guys later.